So you are here because there's a new pack in Master Duel, and with that, a lot of new drops specifically for Branded. There's actually a huge Branded update in this pack with 2 new fusion monsters that you are going to be playing in your deck. Today what I want to do is show you the deck list, show you these new cards, and explain to you how they are used in the deck, and of course show you some gameplay, replays, combos later on after the deck list. Before we begin, make sure to just leave a like on the video. It really helps the algorithm. Share this video with other Branded enjoyers, and let's dive into it. This is my build for this format. Specifically, we have Ritual Beast, which is probably the strongest deck that can actually hinder the Branded strategy the most. And this build is specifically super solid against Shifter. This addition to the deck, this new card, is super good at playing around Shifter, and we're gonna explain exactly how that happens and show you how to do that in the combos. But let's go over the 2 new cards that are added to the Branded deck list in this new set. Starting off with, of course, the card you just saw, Light and Darkness Dragonlord. This card is really good. This card, if you would play Branded in the TCG right now, you would probably play this card. It's a level 10, which is important. It's a dragon, light, but it's also considered dark while face up on the field, which is great. And it must be fusion summoned, right? So you cannot revive this card from the graveyard, which is also a big piece of information that you need to know. Now, if you know the original Light and Darkness Dragonlord, you know that it's an Omni Negate that is mandatory every time a card is activated. What does that mean? Once per chain, if a spell or trap, card, or monster effect, which means that it's just a card activation, not cards that are face up on the field already. So, for example, Branded Lost does not get negated by this card. Mandatory, this card loses exactly 1,000 attack and defense, and if it does, negate the activation. So, essentially, every time a card is activated while this card is face up on the field, once per chain. So a card would be activated, or a monster effect. This card would be immediately chained to, in 99.9% of the cases, right? And it will go down to 2,400 attack and negate that card's activation, and of course destroy it if it applies, right? For example, a continuous spell that is placed on the field, or a field spell. If this card in someone's possession is destroyed by an opponent's card, could be battle card effect, you can target a dragon monster in your graveyard and special summon it. Excellent card, provides your end board with multiple Omni Negates. This is basically super easy to do in a 1-card combo. Just normal summon Albert gets you to this really easily, right? With just 1 discard. And now the fact that it's a level 10 means that your Albion and Lubellion cannot summon this card. This is very important. Why? Because they only summon level 8 or lower fusion monsters. Which cards can actually summon this card? There's 3 of them in your deck. There's Cartesia that can summon level 8 or higher. There is also Branded in red, which summons level 8 or higher. And the new addition, which is super important when you're playing this because this is your 1-card combo, and we'll see that in the replays, it's Branded Banishment. Targets a Despia or a level 8 or higher fusion monster, usually that will be your Albion, which set this card, then summon it, fuse it with Lubellion, which is a level 8 light dark dragon and level 8 dark dragon, light and dark. This is what the requirements for this card are, right? This is the most important piece of information, and your deck has a ton of them. So, very important piece of information. The second card is Chaos Star Source Dragon. This one is a level 8. It's a light dragon. You can also use this to make the Light and Darkness Dragonlord. It requires a light or dark dragon monster plus any dragon monster. This card is specifically very good against Tenpai because Albaz, fusing with any of their dragon monsters, converts into targeting cards your opponent controls up to the number of light and dark monsters used for this card's fusion and destroy them, right? This has a level modulating effect if it is banished, which doesn't really apply for Branded. But long story short, this card is a pop 2 with less materials and more versatility than Guardian Chimera. Guardian Chimera is extremely good, Warlord Furious is also a card that I really, really like, but this card is new and it's relevant to talk about. Let's discuss the deck list a little bit and then jump into the replays because I know you guys want to see that. 1 Tragedy, 1 a Stellar. If you don't know why we're playing a Stellar, it's because this card allows you to get to Quem and Cartesia. Basically, if you have 2 spells in your hand that you can discard, right, or Branded Lost and Retribution, cards you want in the graveyard, you can send this with Branded Fusion, summon it after your Lubellion or Albion Shrouded sends a cost with a spell, it summons itself onto the field. If a spell or trap is sent to the graveyard to activate a monster effect while this card is in your graveyard. Now when it's on the field, you can send another spell or trap from hand or field. Special summon 1 Light Spellcaster Tuner. This gets you access to the 2 best monsters in your deck. 3 Albaz, 2 Aluber, 2 Mercurier because we have great combos under Shifter and in general with Light and Darkness Dragonlord. Kit, 3 Cartesia, 2 Quem. I cannot just get myself to play 1 Quem. And many, many dragons because of Star Source and because of Light and Darkness Dragon. We want dragons. It works really well with our 3 High Spirits, which are also in the Dragonlord combo. So 1 Magnum and 1 Serenader, 2 Druids, and then 3 Shrouded and 3 Bestial Lubellion. 1 Foolish, 2 Goldsark with Mercurier, it's really good. And then of course the Lure of Darkness to dig deep into your deck. 3 Deployment, 1 Talent, 1 Branded Fusion, 3 Thrust, 1 Lost, 2 Opening, 3 High Spirits. This card is really important because if you open this under Shifter with Albion, you can chain this, send the Albion and another Albion. Search for Kit. Kit summons itself, uses Branded Fusion, which sends Albaz and Mercurier, which then can shuffle back, make a Rinbrum, and also search you for a Cartesia, which you can summon because you have Albion in the graveyard. All of that will make sense, hopefully. Now, for that combo, you also need Branded Sword, which is great at reviving your materials from Banish, bringing it back to the hand. Branded Banishment, specifically for the Dragonlord, this card is the best way to bring it out, and also the easiest way. 1 Duplication and 1 Retribution. Extra deck is relatively standard. We do play Sanctifier, even though you could cut it because we don't play any lock cards. I do want to go into the replays, so take a look at how to use Light and Darkness Dragonlord in Branded. So this one is actually going to be a non-standard combo, specifically because we have Branded in Red. And again, Branded in Red, as mentioned, is one of the 3 ways in which you can make Light and Darkness Dragonlord, but you can also really benefit from your Lubellion that is usually just there as like the Searing Dragon, of course, the fusion monster. It's usually just there on the field just for a little bit until it's shuffled back. Now you can actually use it, right? So we're going to make sure we have Dragon set up in the graveyard. This is why we summon Lubellion, but also send Fallen Valbaz, Albion the Shrouded Dragon, to the graveyard. Because now what we can do is actually activate Lubellion as chain 1 and then chain in red, which grabs this, a level 8 Dark Dragon, and can fuse away with this, a level 8 Light Dragon, right? Dark and Light makes Darkness Dragonlord. Light and Darkness Dragonlord, and then the Lubellion can resolve, right? So now what happens is that following this, now Light and Darkness Dragonlord is on the field. Everything will be automatically negated if it's chain 1, right? So you'll see what I'm talking about. We go into battle here, we attack with the Granguignol, and this monster has an effect in the damage step. It doesn't matter. It's mandatory to negate the activation, even during the battle phase, right? We don't kill here because we used Branded in Red, right? We could have killed here, but I wanted to play it out a little bit more to show you essentially how Light and Darkness Dragonlord behaves, right? It will negate your own effects. In the next replay, I'm going to show you how it is actually circumvents Branded Lost, which is really cool. We have Threatening Roar here, which immediately again gets negated. It's very easy to make this card in this deck, but I'm going to show you next is the combo that is actually the 1-card combo, essentially, for how to get it with Branded Banishment. So now let's look at the more traditional way in which you will actually bring out Light and Darkness Dragonlord, right? Thankfully, we have the Ash Blossom from our former build, right? We kind of took it out, actually. You don't really need hand traps in this deck, honestly. So our opponent obviously manages to end on nothing, right? Doesn't really do much. We get ashed on the deployment, which is fine because we have Springin's Kit to grab out Branded Fusion here from the deck. We activate it, and this is going to be your one-card combo, right? Kit or Aluber into Branded Fusion gets you Light and Darkness Dragonlord, and this is exactly how. We go into Albion, we go into the normal Lubellion combo, right? Lubellion, discard any card, doesn't matter. Shuffle back, make a Mirror Jade, and then we go to the battle phase here. Doesn't actually matter what happens here. Everything else is just a bonus on top of the Dragonlord. And this is important. It's important to keep the Lubellion on the field because you need a light level 8 dragon, and you already have the dark level 8 dragon, right? So what it's going to do is going to place the Branded Lost. We have duplication as well. We set up an Albaz, and we set the Branded Banishment. This is exactly what's going to make it so effective and so easy to summon. This card is great, highly searchable, and your combo naturally just makes Light and Darkness Dragonlord. So we don't shotgun it. They discard Keldo here, so I have to bait the Keldo before I activate Branded Banishment. So I do that with Fusion Duplication, which I don't really need to resolve anyway. They're on 0 cards. They try to shuffle my Albion, which now I can use for Branded Banishment. Now it summons it. You can fuse from either field. So a lot of decks, you can fuse with your opponent's monsters as well, right? Don't forget that. But we do that instead. We fuse our 2 monsters, which is our setup, into Light and Darkness Dragonlord. Now, pay attention to this. Keldo will resolve. Imseti is also going to resolve, add Sark, and of course, draw another card. Now, check this out. Resolution. Branded Lost is not going to get negated by Light and Darkness Dragonlord because it's already face up on the field. If a spell, trap, card is activated, not card or effect. This is very important to know. So it's going to be chain 1 here, and we're going to get ashed on it, and that's fine because now Light and Darkness Dragonlord is going to negate the Ash Blossom. This is exactly how it's going to work. It's pretty messed up, right? We search for another negate. Don't forget, if this card has more than 400 attack, basically it's going to have 34, 24, 14, 400. If it still has negate, don't activate any effects, okay? You can see it's also pretty easy for our opponent to go over it, right? Because it's mandatory. Your opponent can decide when to bait out the instructions because it will negate no matter what, right? So essentially here, Imseti can just swing over it. If we had dragons in the grave that we can summon, we could summon them here by the effect of the Light and Darkness Dragonlord, but we don't have to. We just go into the battle phase and win. Yeah, this is basically the basic combo. If you want me to go in depth with the shifter combos, make sure to let me know that in the comments below. I'm not really sure how prevalent you get shifted in Master Duel, but if you are, then let me know and I will help you. Thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.